Hello, I'm Patrick Leader, owner and creative director of Leader Games, and lead designer of Vast the Crystal Caverns. I'm here today with Cole Worley, who is designing Root for Leader Games with Kyle Farron and myself.
I'm going to talk a little bit about the design of Root. Now obviously everything we have here is a prototype component. Root is an interactive strategy game for 2 to 4 players that takes place in a vast wilderness. At the start of the game, the Cat's warriors have taken control of all the different forest clearings and deposed the old forest order. Now over the course of the game, into this tumult, the old order is going to try to strike back. Strange alliances are going to be formed by the different creatures who live in the woodlands, and vagabonds who had previously been in hiding are going to move through the various forest spaces and try to make a name for themselves. Like Vast, Root is a highly asymmetric game, but we've made some changes to our core formula that will allow the game to be a little more accessible and a little faster to play. Unlike Vast, there are more commonalities between the player roles. And we've introduced these commonalities mostly to make the game easier to teach and a little faster to play. So the first one that players will notice is that there's a score track on the edge of the board. Any player who reaches 40 points will win the game, and this score track will allow players to easily see which players are in contention at any point during the game. Players also share certain core mechanisms. For instance, players will all move according to the same rules. Likewise, in a region that has combat, the execution of combat is the same for all players. Most importantly, players will all share a single deck of cards. The deck of cards has 4 suits, each of which corresponds to one of the 4 woodland creatures. So there are bird cards associated with the birds of prey that live high up in the trees. There are fox cards, rabbit cards, and mice cards. Now this deck is tilted, so all the suits have a different number of cards in them, and that tilt reflects the natural order of the woods. So there are more bird cards than there are mice cards, and players will want to take this into account as they're playing. Every card in the game can be used for a variety of different functions, and the factions will interact with the deck a little differently. So the first phase is Birdsong, which is a kind of upkeep, followed by Daylight when they'll take their actions, and then Evening, where they reset certain parts of the game state before play passes. At the start of the cat's turn, 1 wood will be placed at every sawmill on the board. After that, the cat will take a variety of actions. The cat's objective is to build buildings, and it'll build those buildings by spending wood from a location and by placing a building on the board. When a building is built, the cat player gains victory points equal to the indicated amount. At the end of the turn, all players will draw cards and gain additional cards for their income bonuses. After the cat has finished its turn, play continues to the eyrie dynasties. At the start of the eyrie dynasties' turn, they'll recruit a single warrior at every roost on the board. After that, they'll play cards up to the limit indicated by the rightmost empty spot on the roost track. What those cards do depends on the structure of their society, which in turn is a function of who is leading the old order. So for instance, this hawk card will use bird cards and fox cards for military actions, mice as spies, and bunnies as economic actions. The goal of the eyrie is to move its troops to conquer new clearings and to use the economic actions to put roosts into play. At the end of the eyrie's turn, they'll gain victory points depending on the number of roosts they've built. So for instance here, they'll gain 3. If the eyrie is ever asked to do an action which is impossible, for instance if they have to place a roost but don't have room to place it, or if they have to recruit a soldier and don't have any soldiers left, the old leader is deposed, and they'll have to select a new leader from those available. When this happens, their turn ends instantly, and they don't get an opportunity to score. After the eyrie has completed its turn, play continues to the Woodland Alliance. At the start of the Woodland Alliance's turn, any conspiracies that they executed the previous turn are brought back into their hand. Then, during their daylight phase, they can spend supporters belonging to their 3 nations to complete actions. They can spend supporters to battle, but those battles are going to take place in clearings associated with that nation. They can also establish new hideouts and attempt to build strongholds, which will improve their income. The most important action they have, though, is the completion of new conspiracies, which have a cost listed at the bottom of the card. This one costs 3. After they complete a conspiracy, they'll execute the icons listed on it. This one allows the Woodland Alliance to move 2 and then gain 3 victory points. At the end of their turn, they gain new supporters and all their factions, and, depending on the status of outrage, may gain additional supporters that can be spent in any category. After the Woodland Alliance players finish his turn, play continues to the Vagabond. At the start of the Vagabond's turn, they're allowed to make one free move. Now the Vagabond moves a little bit different than other factions. In addition to moving from one clearing to another, the Vagabond has the ability to move into the woodland spaces and from one woodland space to another. This means that in practice, the Vagabond is by far the most mobile faction. After the Vagabond has completed its free move, it can take its turn, following the usual rules. The Vagabond's capabilities are determined by its statistics. So here we have a character with one move, 2 actions, 1 combat strength, and a hand size of 2. Over the course of the game, they'll gain new items which will increase its capabilities. The Vagabond earns their victory points by completing tasks for the other players. For instance, the Vagabond can give cards to players. And when it gives cards to players, it may even be able to get items that that player has crafted in return, which will in turn improve the Vagabond's capabilities. Whenever a Vagabond increases its status on the alignment track along one of these arrows, the Vagabond gains 2 victory points. The Vagabond may also gain certain special abilities if a particular status is reached. For instance, if the Vagabond is at the friendliest status, it gains the ability to lead armies and attack with pieces belonging to that player. In this case, the Vagabond is very friendly with the cat. On the reverse side, if the Vagabond cultivates a negative relationship to a player, that player may become hostile to the Vagabond, which will impede its movement options. The Vagabond, like the other factions, wins if he can get to 40 points. However, the Vagabond also has a secondary quest condition that is secret from the other players. If this can be completed, the Vagabond will win the game regardless of its score. Though Root is played on a static board, there's a wide range of possible narratives that the game can tell, and it's up to the players to determine the stories that come out of the game and to decide ultimately which faction's power takes root.